Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the State Senate Forum conducted by the Greater Burlington Partnership's Government Relations Committee. I'm Sandy Dockendorf, a member of the committee, and I'll be your moderator this morning. Rachel Lundeen is our timekeeper. There are three candidates with us this morning: Tom Courtney, Rex Troute, and Kevin Warth. We want to express our gratitude to each of these public servants for their interest in representing our communities in Des Moines. It's not an easy job. This forum will consist of rounds of questions asked by me, to which candidates will have varying times to respond. The order of response will be rotated so that each candidate has the opportunity to be the first to answer a question. Candidates have not seen the questions in advance. I do ask that candidates observe the signals from our timekeeper and stop your response when time is expired, in fairness to the other candidates. Each candidate will have the opportunity to give a 2-minute opening statement highlighting his reason for running for office. At the conclusion of the debate, each candidate will also have a 2-minute closing statement opportunity. We will begin with opening statements. Since Tom Courtney is first in alphabetical order, we'll begin with him. Tom, you have 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Tom Courtney. I'm running for the 44th Senate seat in the Iowa legislature. I am a Southeast Iowa native. I was born in Burlington, raised in Wapello, and except for the 6 years I was in the Air Force during the Vietnam War, I have lived here my entire life. I worked 30 years at Case Company, spent 9 years on the Burlington School Board, and was elected to the Iowa legislature in 2003. I served there for about 3 terms, I served on various committees, and I was defeated in the Republican sweep of 2016. In 2017, I was written into the Burlington School Board, where I serve today. I'm running for re-election to this Senate seat because I didn't think I had things done when I left before. There are many issues in Iowa that need to be looked at: jobs, education, healthcare. The Governor Branstad privatized Medicaid in 2014. Medicaid has been devastated since then in Iowa. A little over 600,000 people depend on Medicaid for their health care. Many of these people are severely handicapped, and what the governor did, he said at the time it would save $50 million, and instead it's cost the state something like $500,000 so far to prop these private companies up.
30
I want to
seconds.
look at that. I want to look at that. I want to look at education. Education has been devastated. When I was elected the first time, Iowa schools were second in the nation. Now they're 20-something in the nation. Those are the things I want to look at. Iowa can move forward, but not with one-party control in Des Moines. Right now, Republicans control everything, and Iowa cannot move forward with that kind of one-party control. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom. Next up, we'll have Rex Troute. Rex, 2 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Rex Troute. I'm running for state senate because we can no longer accept stagnancy as a method of government. Iowa has plenty of issues that don't need to be addressed. They need to be solved. I love my home state, and it's time to shake things up in order to create a bold Iowa future. That's what I'm bringing to the table in this election: new blood, fresh ideas, and when elected, common sense solutions to benefit Iowa citizens. One of our biggest issues is we are not competing hard enough with our neighboring states, and that issue involves many levels, including wages and jobs. Granted, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Illinois, Missouri are bigger in population, maybe in tourist draw, but that doesn't mean we have to be second to them in anything. But we are settling for second best when it comes because of our legislature and our governor are failing to address several problems. One of those neighboring problems is they have a higher minimum wage than us, except for Wisconsin. Thus, they are paying workers better than Iowa businesses at the retail and restaurant level. Iowa workers are worth just as much as those on the other side of our borders. We might not raise the minimum wage up to $15 an hour, but I have a 5-year plan to raise it to $10.25. By doing this, we can help people make a living, maybe without having to get a second job in order to pay rent, a car payment, or get health care they need for their family. And we prevent workers from crossing borders to get paid better. We have a teacher shortage. and we're losing the battle back with Minnesota and Illinois here too as well. And we need to get Medicaid back to the state, which was working before Governor Branstad changed it to MCOs. I look forward to answering the questions today in hopes of providing more solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Rex. Kevin, 2 minutes for your opening statement.
Thanks, Sandy. I'm Kevin Warth. I'm running for the Iowa Senate because now is the time to turn the page. Now is the time for new ideas and fresh voices. Now is the time for a fresh perspective and new leadership. When this current pandemic has moved past us, and it will, it'll be more important than ever for our legislators to be solution-oriented and value the needs of all Iowans. Many of the solutions we'll need have yet to be crafted. It will be more important than ever to set aside yesterday's hurts and focus on the challenges that await us. In the conversations that I've had with the people of this district, Republicans and independents, as well as Democrats, one overriding theme was a weariness of the toxic politics, of the finger pointing, the pointless arguments on social media. These only serve to fuel a distrust of government, our public institutions, and each other, at a time when we most need to come together. We most need to find common ground. I believe that it will take new faces and new voices to repair that trust and to earn it back. And I'm running for the Iowa Senate to do just that. Thank you.
Thank you. So it appears that each of our questions allow for 2 minutes for each candidate. We'll start this one with Rex. The first question: how will you support the expansion and updates of career and technical education systems statewide, especially with the new and updated requirements from the federal Perkins program?
Well, more than ever, we need to address STEM because we are not filling all positions that we need to in this state. And I could cite several companies just here in Burlington and in the district where we are unable to fill these positions because one, of pay, and one, we just don't have enough people in this state right now. Before COVID happened, we had unemployment of under 3%, and we still have tons of job openings. So some of the companies I was pointing to, they can't fill engineering positions, staff positions at manufacturing plants. So we have issues in terms of drawing people to Iowa, and that sort of education is, it's been approached by Iowa and strengthened, but even more so, it has to be strengthened even more so we can get people to come to the state and work in one of the best places to live.
Thank you. Kevin, do you need me to restate the question?
Please.
How will you support the expansion and updates of career and technical education systems statewide, especially with the new and updated requirements from the federal Perkins program?
To be honest, expansion of programs is going to be incredibly difficult. This pandemic is going to create severe economic difficulty. And to be honestly with you, we're going to have to wait and see how the federal government responds. My hope is when we go into January 2021 into that session, that between the Treasury Department and the Federal Reserve, they'll be able to backfill state budgets and we can at least hold the status quo. And not to be a pessimist, but that might even be optimistic. So expanding programs might be incredibly difficult. So the atmosphere going forward might be one where we need to see what we can hang on to with all we got and hope that the federal government will work with us as partners to make sure we don't go backwards.
Thanks, Kevin. Tom, do you need me to restate the question?
No, not at all. In my view, the issues with employment in this state go back to the minimum wage. The last time the minimum wage was raised in this state, I floor managed the bill. The minimum wage, that was in 2007. It was completed in 2009, pardon me, 9, to its current rate of $7.25. The minimum wage needs to be raised. It needs to be raised at least to $10, and it needs to have a pathway of going on to 15. Our kids are leaving this state because this is a low-wage state. Kids leave because they can't find decent jobs. Iowa does have, before the pandemic started, Iowa did have one of the lowest employment rates in the country. But that doesn't tell the story, because a lot of folks are working 2 and sometimes as many as 3 jobs to make a living. If we're going to fix this state, we need to start raising the minimum wage, stop giving so much money away to big business and tax breaks, and start spending that money on our community colleges and our K-12 education. Iowa has cut education almost every year in real dollars for the last 10 years. We need to stop doing that. Our future is kids. Our future is children in this state, and we need to fix that. We need to put money in that and fix it. I don't think money fixes everything, but the lack of money hurts a lot of things. If I can get back in the legislature, I'd like to run another bill to raise the minimum wage, and I think that would, and I also would advocate for more money for community colleges, because that's where a lot of this training takes place. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom. We'll start with Kevin for the next question. Again, 2 minutes for each candidate. How do you see Future Ready Iowa sustaining into a long-term program?
You know, again, I get it. We're thinking about where we were before this pandemic. But the honest answer is we have no idea. And that goes back to how the economy of the nation at large and our economy here in the state, what it's going to look like when we go to make a budget in 2021. So everything is going to be thrown up in the air, to be honest. We're going to have to prioritize. I mean, there's lots of things that I would like to fund, like the Aldo Leopold Center at Iowa State for sustainable agriculture. That would be a pet project of mine as a farmer, but yet, to be honest, how do we get there? I don't know. And again, these solutions are going to have to be crafted on the fly. We're going to have to be flexible and creative. And we're going to have to take that approach and just, it's going to be a season of reevaluation almost at every step of the way, is my feeling on this.
Thanks, Kevin. Tom, same question. How do you see Future Ready Iowa sustaining into a long-term program?
Well, this virus thing is an impediment to everything. But once that's over and we're back to somewhat normal, maybe the new normal, as they say these days, I think that we need to start spending our money downstream. We've spent so much money over the years in tax breaks for huge businesses. Big businesses in this state are getting, I don't think John Deere even pays any taxes. In fact, I think they get a check from the state back. We need to stop doing that. The future of this state depends on, I hate to keep going back to this, but it depends on K-12 education and community colleges. That's what's going to happen with Future Ready. If we can pump money into the lower level education, then it will percolate up instead of trickling down. I can't say enough that this state has been shortchanged because of the tax breaks for the wealthy and tax breaks for big businesses. I'm not a big tax guy, but I don't believe in cutting taxes for those that don't really need it. That's where I think Iowa should go, and that's where I'll try to get it to go when I'm back in the Iowa legislature.
Thanks, Tom. Rex, same question. Do you need me to restate it?
Sure, real quick.
How do you see Future Ready Iowa sustaining into a long-term program?
Well, a lot of it is tied to everything Kevin and Tom have said. Wages is one of our biggest issues, and education is always one of our biggest issues. But I was the business editor at the Hawkeye too, and I'm a kind of an economic development guy too. So I think we need to get rid of right to work. If we want to attract manufacturing, we got to show that we're interested in manufacturing. And a lot of our jobs are going to be based on education too. So we need to strengthen that as well. Like has been pointed out, we were years and decades for like #1 in the state in education, in the country in education, and we have slipped. We graduate a lot of people, but a lot of those aren't really ready for college. So we need to strengthen K through 12 education. Want to draw jobs because we are a very educated state. We should be able to draw jobs, but again, we have a people issue in terms of being able to fill jobs. You can look up before COVID hit, you could look up and down Roosevelt Avenue here in Burlington and see people, businesses need people. So the future of Iowa, I think, is going to be bold, and I want that program sustained in the future. But like we've said, a lot is going to depend on what happens when COVID is done with this country. And but I do want to see it go beyond and improve actually what we can do here in Iowa.
Thanks, Rex. For the next question, we'll start with Tom. Schools across Iowa are experiencing a shortage of teachers as well as other professionals across industries. How can Iowa better position itself to educate, recruit, and retain professionals in high demand jobs?
Well, what's happened in Iowa happened 2 years ago. It happened when the legislature convened in 2017. One of the first things that the legislature did, because they had one-party control, was they decimated Chapter 20. That's a chapter of the code that deals with public employees. They decimated that, and what they basically did was took union rights away from government employees, which includes teachers. The teachers couldn't even they even took away the part that allowed them to negotiate discipline and discharge. The smallest things they took away, they stripped that. Now the last year or two, folks like me and others that have been elected to school boards and other new folks on boards have started to change this trend and put a lot of Chapter 20 back. But Iowa, at this time, the Iowa legislature acts as if they don't care about teachers. They act as if they don't think teachers will leave. Teachers are leaving Iowa for better conditions in Minnesota and other states. We have to fix that. We have to start. For years, we treated teachers with respect and gave them the things that they needed to teach. We can't recruit teachers to Iowa under these circumstances. So I think the legislature needs to go back and take another look at Chapter 20 and fix that. That Chapter 20 affects people that are grading our roads this morning. Affects the people that are blading our roads this morning, people that do all the work in counties and state level. We need to stop treating them like dirt. We need to stop treating them like they're not real employees. And we need to start paying them decently again. And we need to start giving them back their Union One rights. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom. Kevin, you'll be next. Restating the question, schools across Iowa are experiencing a shortage of teachers as well as other professionals across industries. How can Iowa better position itself to educate, recruit, and retain professionals in high demand jobs?
You know, I think Tom hits a lot of the right notes in his answer there, but point blank, we need to restore everything that they took out of Chapter 20. And the general approach needs to be, we need to empower our teachers. We need to listen to our teachers. They're the experts. They went to school on this. They have the experience in the classrooms. And instead of trying to lecture them or say, oh, you can't do this, we need to empower them and listen to them as a general approach. And I think if you respect people, if you do that, then they're going to be attracted to that. The other thing is we need to protect IPERs. And that's an important factor for teachers. They need that retirement. And we have one of the best run state pensions in the country at over 80% funded. So we need to hold on to that. We need to empower our teachers. We need to listen to them.
Thanks, Kevin. Rex, do you need me to restate?
No. I kind of want to address teachers and engineers. You mentioned other careers. On the teacher front, we're not competing with our neighboring states. And 3 states in particular, we're losing teachers to like Nebraska, Minnesota, and Illinois. And if you're a graduate in Northern Iowa with a teaching degree, which used to be called the Iowa Teachers College, if you could get a job offer in Illinois for $66,000, which is $12,000 on average more than the average Iowa teacher gets, and you have 5-figure student debt, I would go to Illinois and work off my student debt. The problem with that is then if they move to Illinois and teach there, find somebody that they fall in love with, get married, and start a family, what are the chances are they're going to move back to Iowa? Very slim. So pay is a big aspect of this. Now we can pay for teachers to get paid better. The Invest in Iowa Act that the governor has proposed 1 cent sales tax increase in the state. 3/8 of that is designated to waterways involved as far as getting pollution and helping recreation areas. But the other 5/8 of that cent we could do to raise teacher pay. And we could also get rid of MCOs in the state and return Medicaid to the state, saving millions. They could go to teacher pay as well.
30 seconds.
Also in this state, we are having trouble. Sorry to say, I'm an Iowa State University graduate. I was a business major, but one of the best engineering schools in the country, that we are not able to draw engineers to the state sometimes because they don't want to move here, or the pay is maybe not quite as good. So we have issues when it comes to pay, when it comes to drawing these careers to the state and keeping them there. Thank you.
Thanks, Rex. This next question is a bit long, so bear with me. Rex, you will just start this question. It has been nearly a decade since Iowans authorized their elected representatives to raise the state's sales tax and infuse the proceeds into a wide range of environmental, conservation, natural resources, and outdoor recreational initiatives. If you support funding Iowa's land and water legacy, would you support the funding formula that was in effect when the voters approved the constitutional provision? Or would you raise sales tax for a new formula? Why or why not? Rex, you're first. 2 minutes.
Well, I grew up on a farm as well, so a lot of this addresses farmers and the fact that we are bordered by the Mississippi and Missouri rivers. We are considered one of the biggest polluters in the country because of the runoff. So I support the Investment in Iowa Act, although sales tax hurts lower income people, and that's one reason that I'd have a problem with it. But we need to address this issue big time. My dad was a big steward when it came to land and building terraces and doing whatever it can to prevent runoff. So I would support it because we need to address this problem. Now, whether that's building grassways, fence rows, or whatever, but if you remember last May when it rained all May, there's no way you can prevent that type of pollution. It ran over the terraces and gets into our waterways anyway. So it is a big issue. I would support sales tax just because it's going to be addressing those issues and helping recreation areas, etc. And I just think it's a long-term problem for Iowa because you can't change the landscape of our state. And but we can address issues, and hopefully we can come to some common sense solutions that address the issue, but also keep farmers involved and do not involve a lot of their land, that they can still produce the crops that this world needs as food. So thank you.
Thanks, Rex. Tom, you're next on that question. Do you need me to restate it?
No, not at all. I sat in the legislature when we passed this. That had to go for two votes because then it had to go to the people. I sat in the legislature when we passed that. We had high hopes that within a few years, after the citizens of Iowa had voted for it and passed it, we had high hopes that within a few years we would raise the tax 1 penny, and a lot of that money would go to help conservation and some of the things that Rex was just talking about. Didn't count on one thing. After it passed, wasn't too long after that we tried to run a bill to raise that, and a lot of folks across the aisle said they would never vote to raise the tax, even 1 penny. Then a short time later, maybe a year or two later, the legislature went to single party, and it was just dead in the water. No one at all would talk about raising the tax 1 penny, and most of this money was going to go to help conservation. And a lot of those folks were farmers, and they still would not vote for it. So now the governor says that she would sign off on something like that if they found a penny somewhere else to equalize that. That's not the way this was set up. This was not set up. It was set up to be an extra penny, not equalize it somewhere else. So she's saying she can get a penny somewhere else that she would vote for it. That's not the way it is. We need to stop this. This is good legislation. This is a good use of that penny. And I believe that we need to stop this silliness and go back to spending that, getting that money out and spending it where it belongs. I know I'm about out of time here, but in this part of the state, especially in this part of the state especially, Rex is right. People are plowing through their grassways. A lot of folks are cash renting their land, and the people that are farming are plowing up the grassways. There's places in this state, right in this district, I can go to and find water filling the ditches with rich soil as it runs out of the field. We need to stop this, but it's going to take that money to make things like this attractive to the farmer. Thank you very much.
Kevin, same question.
Well, I've got a lot of points I want to jump in on this. And I don't mean to pick on Tom, but as a farmer, we're not plowing up our waterways, and none of my friends do. So I don't know, maybe up in Loiza County somewhere, I got no idea what's going on. But you know, going back to the legislation and the sales tax and how it gets used, you know, if you pass a bill, if you pass legislation, you need to follow through with it and use it as it's intended, just as a general principle of operation. Going to the water quality, though, I think there's a misunderstanding out there in the general public that it's all runoff and that it's heavy rains. And it's really not. What it is the field tile. And a lot of it's been there for a lot of years since, you know, my grandpa and his dad would have put some of that in. And our soils are constantly mineralizing nitrogen. And the farmer's approach, and it's approach on our farm and all of my friends, we're trying to put only as much nitrogen in as the crop can use. Because we don't want to spend money, and we don't want our nitrogen, our phosphorus floating down the Mississippi River and creating the dead zone in the Gulf of Mexico. The problem is we can't outguess it, and when we do get heavy rains, when it's nitrate, which is the water-soluble form of nitrogen, it takes it down into that tile and it runs right into the ditches and the waterways, and that's the problem. And one of the solutions is a bioreactor. And what these are is they're big pits filled with wood chips, and they operate kind of like a septic tank where there are microbes in there, and it processes the nitrogen so the water that comes out the other end of the bioreactor doesn't have that nitrogen in it. One of those problems with this is it's not profitable for a farmer, and he's already operating on tight budgets. So where's the money going to come from for that? My gut feeling is it's going to take the will of the people and probably the federal government to intervene, because, you know, we have to compete with farmers in Illinois growing the same crop. So these are big issues. And I think you can tie this with water management. We're seeing increased flooding, and we need to look at the Netherlands has a good model of how they manage their water. We need to look at this holistically and how we can manage our nitrate pollution and the flooding together. If we look at the whole landscape, how the water flows, and it's probably going to take some bioreactors and maybe even some new technologies to get there.
Thank you. Question number 5. And Kevin, you will start with this one. Do you support Medicaid rate increases to mental health disability service healthcare providers so that they can cover frontline staff hazard pay, overtime, and PPE costs?
Absolutely. And that's not the only area where Medicaid needs to be increased. I think there's a bill in the Senate right now. Don't quote me on it or hold my feet to the fire. I think it's SF 2062, which is going to raise the Medicaid rates for OBGYNs, because we're losing them, and we're losing, you know, delivery rooms and maternity services, and especially in rural areas. So yeah, across the board, we need to look at these Medicaid rates and make sure that the people that need these services are getting them. And for that to happen, the doctors, healthcare professionals need to be adequately compensated. Period.
Thank you. Rex, same question.
Well, this has been a big issue for me for the last 5 years, because I've been on the board of directors of Hope Haven for the last 5 years, and it's a nonprofit, for those that are not familiar with it, that help mentally and physically handicapped individuals that rely on Medicaid payments, and we rely on that as an organization, Hope Haven. So when Branstad passed this law to get the money to outsource Medicaid from the state, which was working, and to MCOs, it's kind of screwed up the situation. We deal with getting our payments on time and that sort of thing, and the patients aren't getting some of the services they were getting before. So as a state senator, I would get this out of MCO's hands. We've already had 2 of them leave the state because they couldn't make any money, and get it back to the state government. They did this to save the state money, and it hasn't. And they're going to be losing millions here predicted over the next few years. So I would increase the Medicaid payments because another aspect of this is we raised pay, our nonprofit raised pay for the people that work there. So if we can raise Medicaid payments to individuals, hopefully we can keep some of our employees longer than we do as well. It kind of involves all levels just by raising the Medicaid issue. So I wholeheartedly agree that we should raise it because we have so many people, I think it's 600,000 people in the state that rely on Medicaid. And it's definitely an issue in my heart. And I believe we can do that for the people that need it.
Thank you, Rex. Tom, same question.
Of course, we need to increase the reimbursement rates. Iowa has nursing homes in trouble. We have small hospitals in trouble. We have some medical personnel in trouble because the reimbursement rates are so low. Governor Branstad did pass a law. Governor Branstad did this unilaterally on his own. He has the power. The governor has the power to do that. He said at the time he would save us $50 million, and that just wasn't true. We told him it wasn't true. What they've done is a business. It doesn't make sense. Anyone would think a business could make money in this kind of work, could make money and keep everything the same. They can't. The money has to come from somewhere. In this case, it comes from reimbursement rates and sometimes just in no care at all. Mental health and other issues in this state have not been looked at for a long time. You have someone in Des Moines County has a mental health problem and gets picked up by the local police. They eventually may wind up putting them in a car and taking them all the way to Sioux City because that's where they found the bed. They can't find the bed because of the Medicaid reimbursement so low. If you are lucky enough to get in a nursing home, you'd better not try to leave there, because if you move, you won't be able to find another bed anywhere else. So I think that we need to, of course, as Rex said, we need to do away with this. We need to go back to this being a state-run program that ran fine for years. It ran fine for years and years and years. To quote what the president's always saying, it was a beautiful, beautiful program prior to the government taking over and privatizing it. I just think we need to get it back so the reimbursement rates can go up and we can save hospitals in this state and nursing homes. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom. For question number 6, we're going to start with Rex, and this question is going to change depending upon who is responding. So for Rex, this is the question. If elected, you would be new to the Senate. What evidence would you offer that you are prepared to represent the people of this district? How would you respond to critics that may suggest that you are not ready?
Well, I'm 64 years old, and I was in a profession where I wanted to run for city council and for other things, but when you're an editor at a newspaper, that kind of prevents you from running. And my grandfather was the mayor of Carthage, so I think I got my political bent from my grandfather. So I've always been involved in politics as a managing editor of a newspaper, of several newspapers actually. So politics has always been a big part of my life ever since middle school. I talked politics. So I've got solutions that I want to do for all the issues that are pending for Iowans, especially here in Southeast Iowa. And so I believe experience, all three of us are of men of age that have been around and know what to do. So I believe I'm very qualified for this, even though I'm running for the first time, and I retired from the Hawkeye 3 years ago, so I could run. And so I'm very prepared for this, and having been in all three counties over the last few months too. I had issues that I wanted to address going in, but I've also learned of other issues that we need to address in the state. So I'm prepared for this position wholeheartedly. And I believe there's a lot of people in this district that know me very well too. So I'm ready, and growing up on a farm, hard work is part of the everyday life. So hard work will not be an issue when I go to the state Senate.
Thanks, Rex. Kevin, same question.
You know, I appreciate the value of experience, but you know, as much as that, sometimes I think temperament and outlook and approach has a lot of value. As a farm kid growing up, I often thought about our founding fathers, who a lot of them were farmers. They're also educated. And I'm a farmer, and I have a bachelor's degree in political science. There's one thing about a farmer is they're pretty tied to reality, because there's no fudging it. You know, we do our work, we do our best, and reality has a funny way of slapping you in the face, and we adapt and we adjust. And at the end of the day, when we get done, we drag our work product across the scales, and there's no lying about what's there. So I think that's a valuable perspective, and I think that's the temperament that I would bring to a legislature. You know, you can order Robert's Rules of Order on Amazon, and anybody can read that and go through, you know, how legislative bodies operate. But I think the mindset and the outlook is an important component in that. And I think one of the strengths of American democracy and our democracy here in the state of Iowa is a turnover and fresh faces and different outlooks, a mix of viewpoints that engage each other and listen to each other, and hopefully look for solutions and craft the best legislation that they can.
Thanks, Kevin. Obviously, Tom, this question's a little different for you. You are not going to be new to the state Senate. You'll be returning to the state Senate. What evidence would you offer that you are bringing something different to represent the people of this district? And how would you respond to critics that you're just part of the problem in the past?
Well, as you stated, I'm not new to the legislature. I know a lot of people there. I know folks across the aisle. I was working with folks across the aisle when I left the legislature in 2016. I believe that I bring back to the Senate, I can move right into the Senate and begin working on legislation immediately if that's the case. And I believe that what I can bring back is what I've seen is what's happened to Iowa as far as Medicaid and education and jobs in the state, and unemployment level, and the right to work laws and all those kind of things. We need to take another look at those. And I believe I have a unique perspective to go back in and do that. As I said, I wasn't ready to leave. I was in the middle of working on sentencing reform. We have a lot of folks in prisons in this state that are there for nonviolent crimes, there for a long time. And in my view, we should be taking a look at that. And a lot of folks agreed with me at the time. And I think had we had another 4 years, we might have gotten something done on sentencing reform. So I'm ready to go back in and go back to work. I know right where I left off. I know what we need to do. And I have folks on the other side of the aisle that will work with me, I believe. I used to serve with the governor when she was in the state Senate, so I know her as well. And that's what I think I bring to this Senate seat. Some might say it's time to stop. I believe I've got another term left that we can do a lot of stuff. Thanks, Sandy. Thank you.
Uh-huh. So the next question, Tom, you'll start with this one. We're told that local law enforcement professionals have raised concerns repeatedly that the penalties for repeated unlawful carry of a firearm are not sufficient. Would you support enhancing this penalty under Section 724.4, which deals with unlawful carrying of a weapon, to a Class D felony for repeat violations to aid law enforcement in removing illegal weapons from neighborhoods? Why or why not?
Yes, I would support that. I think Iowa has some of the most open laws on carrying a weapon around. Some of that stuff was passed when I was in the legislation. I voted for some of those things, but I agree with the law enforcement officers. Some of this has gone too far, and we need to fix it. Those folks, the sheriff tells me that sometimes he feels his hands are tied in these kind of situations. So I believe that we should go back and take a look at it. If we can have a more evenly balanced legislature, I believe we can look at it, and I can believe we can make a change. But I have to tell you, the gun folks, the National Rifle Association has a huge and powerful lobby there in Des Moines, and I've dealt with them a lot. I've actually got a fairly decent voting record with them, and I've dealt with them. So that's what will slow this down. That's what will make it hard to get this changed. But I think we can do it. In the last few years, the National Rifle Association has lost some of their power, and they have lost some of the money. So I have high hopes that this could be fixed. I'm glad you brought it up, Sandy, because it's something close to my heart. I believe in the Second Amendment. I believe in the right to carry, but I also believe in good laws to keep control of it. Thanks.
Thanks, Tom. Rex, same question.
Definitely, I want to see the penalties increased. Not only are we having too many shootings here in Burlington, but it gives us a bad image. So I grew up in a house of guns, but all our guns were used for hunting. And I think also we have too many people with guns that probably shouldn't have guns. So not only should we increase the penalty, but we need to protect officers. We're losing way too many police officers in this country to gun violence, just because there's more guns in this country than there are people. So when you have that many guns, you better start penalizing people for using them wrongly. And a lot of these people never have to take a gun safety course or anything like that when they purchase a gun, or they won't take one. So we need to increase the penalty, but we also need to raise awareness of gun safety in this country and take guns away from people that don't belong them. There's been programs where people can turn in their guns for money, and we can get some guns off the street that don't belong on the street. Like I said, we've had way too many shootings in this city alone, and that hurts our image in terms of trying to attract jobs, in terms of trying to better educate our kids. You name it. Everything about that kind of an atmosphere is a negative on your community that hurts, and we need to reverse that. So if we strengthen the penalties for misusing guns, then maybe we can reverse that image and protect our police officers as well, because they're on the front line dealing with this issue. So I wholeheartedly support increasing the penalty and making them aware that if you use a gun, you're going to pay the price.
Thanks, Rex. Kevin, same question.
Yeah, I believe I would support that. And part of that is just because of the approach where, like I spoke earlier about the teachers, listen to the people that are involved, because they're the experts, and trust them. I'm going to go sideways just a little bit. And I don't think we want to get bogged down in just a stick-only approach. I think we also need carrots. And I think we need to look at this whole issue in such a way where we compare it to like automobiles, and how we, if you want your driver's license, you have to pass a test. You have to meet certain standards. And my gut feeling, my sense is that if you want to carry a gun, if you want to have concealed carry permits, then you need to prove that you're responsible and that you can manage that. So you need to take a safety class. You need to show proficiency. And I think we need to look at it that way. And there's a personal horror story where I was at a family gathering, and it really brought it home to me, where a pistol came out, and it was a semi-automatic. I think it was a 32 or whatever. And I've been around guns, so it didn't completely shock me, but the family member that pulled it out was not really handling it in such a way that I was comfortable. He wasn't watching, where the muzzle was pointed. And it got passed around a table, and it was a table that children were at. And another family member, who actually a woman who has taken gun safety and knew what she was doing, the first thing she did was she dropped the clip, which is right. And I looked over and I noticed that there was a loaded clip in it. And I was surprised. And then the next thing she did, which is also right, is she cleared the chamber, and there was a live round in the chamber. Now, there's no ill intent here, but there is a level of incompetence. And so if you want to enjoy your gun rights, then I think it's like driving an automobile, and you're going to be out there with other people. Then you need to prove that you can handle it. You need to take safety classes, and you need to be responsible.
Thanks, Kevin. You'll start this last question. As we look into the upcoming year with decreased sales and gas taxes, how do you look at tightening the budget?
I don't want to tighten the budget. I'd like to, there are things that I think we need to put more money towards, but, we're going to be bound by reality and bound by our resources. And it'll go back that the federal government really is going to need to step up, and they're going to need to value people and get money in the hands of people so that people can make it through this crisis. And that's what it is. If they could do that, then I think we've got a chance. And I think they're going to have to engage with the states and not to, have pet projects and grow budgets unnecessarily, but be able to hold the line on our vital programs so that we don't go backwards. And so that in the aftermath of this, we're not rebuilding an entire economy. So there's a lot of unknowns there. We're not going to be able to do everything at the state level, but I think we're going to be able to engage with our congressmen and our senators. And at some point, we might even end up being lobbyists. We're saying, this is what we need. These aren't the extra things. This is what it takes to get us through. And hopefully there'll be open lines of communication across all levels of government so that we can walk out of this together and not having to completely rebuild an entire economy.
Thanks, Kevin. Rex, same question.
Well, that's a tough issue because of what COVID has done to us here in the last month and a half. According to the governor, we were operating on a surplus here before this happened. So I'm sure it's just not the gas tax, but sales tax, whatever, we're losing money. So it's kind of hard, like Kevin said, to figure out where we would have to tighten the budget. I'm a conservative person. You can just ask my mother. I spend money better treating people to a dinner than I spend on myself. So I'm a bit of a tightwad. I'm a moderate when it comes to being a Democrat, and I'm not into raising taxes. And I would definitely look at ways where we could save money if it needed to be, where the budget needed to be tightened. I wouldn't hesitate to work with people on the other side of the aisle to try to figure out where we can save money and still provide the services this state needs and that are essential. We don't want to cut to an extreme where we're hurting our economy or whatever, but it's gonna depend on where we emerge from COVID and when we're able to get back to normal in this state and in the country. How much money have we lost because of this virus? So a lot of questions will be up in the air on what we'll need to do, but I won't hesitate to find ways if we need to cut the budget.
Thanks, Rex. Tom, same question.
In my view, we need to, I'd hate to keep beating that horse, but we need to stop the huge tax breaks to big business. We could do that. We could do that this year, and that would increase the funding somewhat to the state coffers. We need to stop the research and development grants. We're giving a lot of money to John Deere and other large companies for research and development. We need to stop that. It's time for companies to step up to the bar and help by not getting these huge tax cuts. This will be a tough year. There's not any money coming in from hardly anywhere, and a lot of money's going out. Money's going out to unemployment payments and all those kinds of things. So it's not going to be easy. But I think you start by taking away the give backs that we've done to big business, and I think that's one place you go. That may be such a thing as we're going to run a deficit for a few years. I think a lot of states will be running a deficit, but it's harder for state government to run a deficit because you can't print money. So it's a tough thing. There are programs that probably could be looked at and cut back. It's just a serious business for legislators to sit down with no partisan bickering, no craziness from the governor or whatever. Sit down at the table and talk about the issues that are going on. I think I can do that, and I think that's what needs to be done. We need to sit and talk about these issues and try to come to some kind of conclusion. Thank you, Sandy.
You're welcome. It is now open for closing statements. Each candidate has the opportunity to make a 2-minute closing statement, and we will start with Rex.
Well, first off, Sandy, I want to thank the Greater Burlington Partnership for the opportunity to speak in this unique forum. One of my favorite quotes to live by was made famous by one of my idols. Bobby Kennedy said, "Some men see things as they are and ask why. I dream of things that never were and ask why not." Well, his brother JFK tried to better third world countries by starting the Peace Corps and lit the candle in the space program's goal of a moon landing. There's no telling what dreams Bobby would have accomplished if he would have become president of the United States. I see my home state and ask why Iowa can't dream bigger. We as a state shouldn't be a follower in national trends, but be a leader. Alternative energy is one area where we have shown proud, but in too many areas, we wait for the federal government to make changes for us. Why can't Iowa find a way to reduce pollution into its waterways by being more aggressive with Aldo Leopold's conservation methods and land stewardship? Why can't Iowa strengthen its unions, whether it is for teachers, nurses, or production orders, in order to rebuild the middle class? Why can't we create an economy that produces the careers to keep our college graduates in the state and also encourage them to start businesses? I have incubator and rent programs to retain our young brain power on that issue. Why can't we retool the current public university model in order to reduce tuition and thus reduce debt when graduates accept their degree? Why can't we reduce the financial pain felt by the cost of medication and hospital visits? I would propose a $100 cap on insulin for diabetes patients. I too dream of things that never were and ask why not. I need your vote either by write-in ballot or on June 2nd in order to accomplish great things for Iowa. Des Moines, Louisa, and Muscatine counties, I need your vote so we can dream big. Thank you.
Thank you, Rex. Kevin, your 2-minute closing statement.
Thank you, Sandy, and thank you to the Greater Burlington Partnership. You know, this pandemic will pass, and afterwards the landscape will get a little different. And how different it will be, we don't know. Some of the challenges that state legislators are going to face in Des Moines in January 2020 will depend on how well the federal government responds right now. There's going to be lessons learned and a few stumbles along the way. But at the same time, Democrats will have some opportunities. We're going to have an opportunity to make the case for consumers, the folks who do the everyday work that this country can't survive without, the teachers, the nurses, the truck drivers, the farmers, that they are the essential components of a healthy economy. They are the true job creators. And when they stop earning, when they stop spending in shops and restaurants and theaters, the economy grinds to a halt. You can see more clearly than ever that trickle-down economics not only doesn't work, but it doesn't make sense. As Democrats, we will continue to make the case that organized labor is an important counterbalance to management. But this balance is crucial to a thriving middle class, which is the backbone of any healthy economy and any democracy. As Democrats, we will continue to make our case that environmental protections and sustainable energy are important not only to us, but to the well-being of our children and to future generations. We see more clearly than ever, with our own eyes, independent of hard to understand scientific models, effects of human activity on our planet, and we can see clearly how the earth repairs herself when given a chance. As Democrats, we'll have a chance to make these arguments, to bring others to our cause, and to grow our party. The choice in this primary is a familiar one. It's a choice between moving forward and embracing renewal or standing still and out of fear losing ground. I believe that as Democrats, we are at our best when we embrace renewal, when we move forward with our eyes fixed on the horizon and not on the past. And I believe that I am the best candidate in this race to carry our progressive message forward, to speak to a wider audience. And
Time.
Thanks, Kevin. Tom, 2 minutes, closing statement.
Thank you. I too want to thank you folks for putting this on. I hope a lot of people get to see it and hear it because we've talked about a lot of important things here today. As everyone knows that knows me, my main issues are jobs, education, and healthcare. I believe that a good job with good benefits will go a long ways towards solving all the problems in society. And I believe that Iowa slipped away from that. The minimum wage has been around a long time in Iowa. Minimum wage, I think, was passed originally in 1947. That means it's been the law of the land here for over 70 years. It's time to change that. It's time to stop worrying about huge tax breaks for folks that maybe don't need it, and go back to good jobs with good benefits. We need to get rid of the MCOs in Iowa. We need to go back to state-run Medicaid, and we need to refund the schools in this state to raise what we're paying to get our kids educated. We have a lot of good kids in the school, a lot of good teachers, and a lot of good schools, but we're losing out because we can't afford to do the stuff that we need to do. These schools have all stepped forward in this trying time for Iowans, and they're doing a really good job of that. But somewhere or other, we need to start funding these schools better. Those are my issues. I think I can work with the folks that are in Des Moines that I've worked with before. I intend to work with them. I intend to work hard, and I intend to go back and rekindle I intend to go back and rekindle the relationships that I had when I was in Des Moines. So please vote for me on June the 2nd or in the primary. Please be safe and vote, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom. Again, I'd like to express appreciation to each of these three gentlemen for being willing to serve in our citizen legislature. I'd also like to thank those in the audience who are interested in the election process. This concludes our forum for the Greater Burlington Partnership.